Good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for a really successful day 2 at the WITI Summit. My name is Paula Gould. I'm the program coordinator and the head of corporate communications for WITI. I wanted to take a few minutes to acknowledge our MC, Amanda Coulong, who, if you don't follow her on Twitter already, she's A Coulong, and the hashtag's WITI Summit. Figured I'd reiterate that. So when I left the WITI Summit last year, and I was thinking about people, we automatically think during the current summit who we might want to have for next year. The first person I thought of was Amanda, because we really needed a strong MC who was personable and who understood what it was to be an entrepreneur, what it was to be in technology. And Amanda is the COO of TechZulu. If you're not familiar with TechZulu, it's techzulu.com or at TechZulu on Twitter. Hashtag WITI Summit. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to acknowledge her as well, because our MC for this evening, Jolie Odell, was on a tarmac about 2 hours ago. Due to the storms, she was unable to be here. So I went to Amanda and I said, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" And she knew exactly what I was talking about and stepped up to the plate. So if you could, as she takes the stage, give her a round of applause and take any opportunity you can to tell her how wonderful she is, because we really think she is. So thanks so much. And Amanda, if you could come to the stage.
Wait a minute, you're not all sick of me yet? Thank you so much, Paula and Carolyn and the entire WITI team and all of you. It really is my pleasure to be your MC for this entire event. It's just a pleasure to be amongst so many amazing and talented, strong women in science and technology. It's uncommon for me to, working in technology, be in a room filled with phenomenal women. So I thank all of you. So please give yourselves a warm round of applause. And then also on behalf of WITI and Silicon Valley, I would also really like to thank our friends, our colleagues, and our associates who've really graciously traveled from all around the world to join us. And on behalf of our honorees as well, both past and present, and our sponsors, guests, and friends, we offer a very special thanks to WITI's founder, Carolyn Layton. Thank you, Carolyn. Her son and WITI president, David Layton. Where are you, David? Back here. And of course, WITI's dynamic team for enabling us to experience the Hall of Fame Awards and the Women Powering Technology Summit every single year. So producing an event of this magnitude really is a daunting task, and it's a tribute to your passion, to your hard work, and your unwavering dedication. So thank you. And finally, we would also, again, like to thank all of you in this room tonight, because you wouldn't be here if you didn't understand the significance of these women's contributions to global society and unquestionably to our history as women. I can say that if you look through the slides that were being presented as we were eating, it's just amazing to see how many women have changed the world, and you're among them. So thank you for that. So, and all of you are really helping to pave the way for future generations of scientists and technologists by really helping to make this evening possible, and it's both humbling and inspiring to be in your presence. So before we meet this year's distinguished honorees, I would first like to bring to stage a woman whose love, courage, and vision continues to illuminate the path for women worldwide. She's a woman who ignited a movement that spans across the U.S. and internationally throughout the world. She's a woman who forged ahead in turbulent times, particularly when the thought of hiring, advancing, and equality for women in the workplace was, well, unthinkable. So may I present a visionary, a trailblazer, and an extraordinary woman, WITI's founder, Carolyn Layton. Please take the stage.
That's very sweet. Hi, everybody. There are so many wonderful people and energy in this room tonight. It's just flowing beautifully around. So thank you for being here. Many of you here for the Hall of Fame may not know that much about WITI, but WITI is about transformation. And the reason we focus on transformation is because I personally believe that the only way a real shift will occur both in innovation and for women who are still stuck at the vice president level. If you look at the numbers, there are very few women who can get beyond that, is if we as women start transforming the way we think about ourselves and start seeing much bigger possibilities. So we talk about that a lot at WITI events. And I'd like to share a story which relates to how I work on my own transformation. And that is, one day I was watching a Seinfeld episode, and George Costanza was saying in a frustrated moment, "Nothing I do ever works. I know what I'll do. I'll do the opposite of everything I normally do." And you know, a light went off in my head when I watched that episode. And I thought about the fact that just a rule of law is that every time we keep repeating the same patterns, we get the same result. And I realized that we're so driven as humans, especially as we get older, like me, by habit, that we need to create routines to shake us out of our normal way of doing things so we can truly keep innovating and doing things differently. So what I did was I created and continue to create an opposite day for myself. So I'll declare a day. This is the day that's going to be an opposite day. I'd like all of you, by the way, to try this. It's quite amazing. And I try to do everything that day, including the way I put on my shoes, what I usually cook for breakfast, and all the little things we do the same throughout the day in our life, totally differently. And what happens is I become much more conscious, and I expand my ability to see things in very different ways. And you can hire the most intelligent, sophisticated people, but if you don't have a workforce that has very different eyes, male and female, different cultures, if you don't have people who look at everything differently, and if you don't make a commitment to yourself to expand your own consciousness and to start pushing the limits of your possibilities, then you will probably get the same result next week, next year, that we achieved the year before. So I want to encourage, who's going to join me in an opposite day from now on? Come on, raise your hand. Tonight marks the 163rd anniversary since women won the right to vote. Wow. When I started WITI, the environment for WITI, that was for women, that was 22 years ago, was all about blaming men and being victims. Look what they're doing to us. And when I saw that, I was running a company I had started, I said, you know, that is not going to work for us. We're not going to get anywhere if we continue this victim mentality and the blame game. So I really wanted to use WITI as a format to help each other, women and other women, understand that the only answers are going to lie in our transforming ourselves and being accountable for the choices we make. So that's the direction of WITI. We are working on a legacy for the next generation of women. We can't do it without your help, guys. We really want your help and support, especially those of you who have daughters, because we want you to join us in making a difference for the next generation of women. And if you have daughters, you have a personal motivation to make that happen. I am so thrilled each of you have come here tonight to be part of the Hall of Fame. We have Hall of Fame winners in the audience who were already acknowledged. We have new ones coming through tonight, which I can't wait to hear your videos. I'm very excited about it. Honoring these women is so important because these women are the role models that will teach and inspire our younger generation. So thank you so much for being here, for coming to honor their achievements and their accomplishments. Thank you very much.
So as most of you know, the Hall of Fame was established by WITI to recognize, honor, and promote the outstanding contributions of women to the scientific and technological communities that improve and evolve our society. So again, you've probably noticed all of the different slides of the 84 alumnae who have entered the Hall of Fame since 1996, 84 of them. These women set a really high benchmark for the WITI Hall of Fame Awards, to which our 2011 inductees add their outstanding list of achievements. The winners of all WITI Hall of Fame Awards are selected by an independent panel of judges, and the criteria for a nominee are as follows. First, a person who has directly made an exceptional contribution to the advancement of science and/or technology. Second, a person who has facilitated and created programs that motivate young women to choose careers in science and technology. Third, a person who has enabled and encouraged other scientific and technical women to advance in their careers, mentorship. And fourth, a person who has created scientific or technological innovations which promote environmental harmony, support humanitarian endeavors, or improve the human condition. That's a tall order. The 5 women that we salute tonight are at the forefront of this evolution, and it's our privilege to honor and celebrate WITI's Hall of Fame inductees. They are primary examples of those who have made an indelible mark in the fields of science and technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now begin the 2011 WITI Hall of Fame inductees. Our very first honoree is Dr. Alicia Abella, who, if you were here earlier, probably heard her speak. Phenomenal speech. She's the Executive Director of Technical Research at AT&T Labs, where she manages a group of researchers that are specializing in data mining, user interfaces, IPTV, mobile services, voice over VoIP technology, voice over IP, and environmental sustainability. She also chairs the AT&T Labs Fellowship Program to help encourage, advise, and evaluate candidates for a prestigious graduate scholarship for AT&T targeted at women. That's quite a bit. How do you do all of that? So let's take a closer look at Dr. Abella's journey.
I am Alicia Abella, and I am the Executive Director of AT&T Labs Research. In college, I majored in computer science. AT&T Labs at the time had a summer internship program geared for women and minority students who were studying science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM fields. It was an inspiration to me really to work there, and I also made the decision that I wanted to go back there one day and work after I was done with my studies.
There are a couple of things that really impressed me when I first met Alicia Abella. She's incredibly persistent. She's kind of like an unstoppable force, so when Alicia digs her teeth into a problem, there's really no question that she's going to succeed at actually delivering an interesting solution to that problem.
So in my first 10 years at AT&T, I worked on one major project we called How May I Help You? And How May I Help You was a spoken dialogue system that would allow a person to speak to a machine, and it was up to the machine to figure out what the person wanted. It was exciting to know that I had worked so many years, really late nights, weekends, on something that was not only helping the company reduce costs, but it was also increasing customer satisfaction.
She really thinks very deeply about the way that people use technology and the way that people interact with services. And that theme has influenced her work over many, many years. In addition to her day job as being a technology innovator, is also been a very dedicated supporter of STEM education.
I am the chair of the AT&T Labs Fellowship Program, or we call it the ALFP. And the ALFP is a fellowship program for women and underrepresented minorities so that they can go ahead and get their PhDs in science, technology, engineering, and math fields. There aren't enough women and underrepresented minorities in these fields. And in order to have innovation, to create innovation, you have to have diversity of thought. In order to have diversity of thought, you need a diverse set of people bringing you those ideas.
Over a number of years in a variety of different leadership roles, she has worked to bring minorities and women that may not have been attracted to careers in these fields, to make them aware of that they can be exciting, that they can be great opportunities for a career advancement, and that they can have a tremendous impact on society.
I am the Executive Vice President of the Young Science Achievers Program, and I am Commissioner for the White House Initiative for Educational Excellence for Hispanics. As a commission member, I have to come up with plans, propose ideas, or programs that could help encourage more of these population of students to enter STEM careers, because the country needs it.
A new generation, a new innovation.
The Young Science Achievers helps to sort of open the eyes of these high school students to the possibilities of science and engineering by pairing them up also with mentors, scientists from AT&T, Alcatel-Lucent, and Princeton University. There's lots of research to show that how important role models are to a young person's confidence, to say, to point to a role model and say, if that person could do it, so can I. It gives them the extra encouragement they need to really aspire big. Especially for women and underrepresented minorities in STEM, the expectation bar is set kind of low. And when that happens, the student themselves start to think that they can't aspire to more. And my message to them would be really, they can aspire to more. To recognize that to aspire to more means that they have to be willing to work hard for it, because it doesn't come easy or free, but nothing worth doing is ever really easy. So if they worked hard and they persevere and they have that dream and that goal, that they can achieve it with that hard work and perseverance.
There we go. So presenting the award to Dr. Abella is fellow AT&T colleague Teresa Sprawling, an executive board member of Women of AT&T. Teresa, please join us.
In 3 words for Dr. Alicia Abella: worthy, accomplished, exceptional. She holds a BS degree, 2 master's degrees, as well as her PhD. She has been recognized as one of the top 5 women of the year by the Hispanic Business Magazine. She is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Pioneer Award, and this was offered to her through the Women of Color STEM Conference. She's also a recipient of the Leadership of the Year Award through the Latinos Information Sciences and Technology Association. Dr. Abella, as you noted in the video, she does chair the AT&T Labs Fellowship Program, and she serves on as the Executive Vice President for Achievers, for the Young Achievers Program. here's what you don't know about this wonderful, amazing, phenomenal woman. In spite of all of that, she does find time to give back to the community. In fact, she believes in giving back because she too has been the recipient of communities that give through scholarships, through fellowships, and the like. As noted in the video, she attributes AT&T for her interest as a scientist through the summer internship program that she actually participated in as a junior in college, believe it or not. At that time, when I talked to her during lunch, she said, I didn't even know what a PhD or a scientist or a researcher was all about. But she soon learned and was inspired to become one. We are proud of you, Dr. Abella. Your AT&T family finds you to be among the finest, and we are certainly worthy, accomplished, and exceptional woman accepting this award. To help us present this award, we do have Kathleen Larkin, who's the Vice President of Technology and Human Resources for AT&T. And I would like for you to join Kathleen and me, everybody around the room, as we put our hands together and welcome Dr. Alicia Abella to the WITI Hall of Fame. Yes!
I thank you all. It's really an honor to be here today. I have a few words of acceptance remarks I'd like to make. Being here today in the shadow of the magnificent Golden Gate Bridge, I see the spirit of the immigrants who settled on this coast, pioneers who chose to leave their homes, carrying with them a thirst for adventure and entrepreneurship. In the mid-19th century, they came in search for gold. But today, it's not the gold that we seek, and it's not found in the hills of the Sierra. It is not that seductively glittery stuff you sift through a sieve and wear on your finger. It may not even be the gold that the 20th century 49ers unearthed in a valley nearby. The supply of gold is finite. Even the reach of today's technology is finite. So we must continuously find new nuggets, new mines, and new valleys. And we will. And we know that to mine the gold of the 21st century, we'll need the same ingenuity, inventiveness, and pioneer spirit that our forefathers and foremothers had. And remember, with women in technology, internationally and domestically, there are twice as many of us in search for that gold. So at this point, I want to thank WITI for recognizing me today as one of those in search of future gold, and even more so, for helping mine the gold in all of us. Thank you.
Our next honoree is Dr. Diane Pozefsky, an IBM Fellow and IBM Master Inventor. Master Inventor, I just like the way that sounds. Who was also elected to the IBM Academy of Technology. A 25-year veteran of IBM, in her early work was also elected, in her early work there, Dr. Pozefsky transformed networking technology to allow networks to change and adapt more easily. In the early 90s, Dr. Pozefsky's team broke barriers with the development of the AnyNet technology. And by the late 90s, Dr. Pozefsky was responsible for the network design for the 1998 Olympics. Her work on networking architectures and development earned 8 formal achievement awards at IBM. So let's see more about Diane Pozefsky.
Diane Pozefsky grew up in a family that valued education. She learned the effectiveness of first stopping to think and then doing a complete design, first from Andy Van Dam of Brown University and then Fred Brooks at UNC. Throughout her career, she's always focused on how to use technology to make a difference.
I especially want to talk about Diane as a mentor and as a teacher, because her function has been to inspire people and to teach them skills, ways of thinking, ways of approaching problems. She's also been selected as one of the most effective teachers by the students themselves. Her contributions are as much as a personal mentor as they are as a technical innovator.
She just kind of gave me confidence to throw myself at any career opportunity that I wanted to. And so that in itself, just her poise and who she was, helped me as a female in the department have the confidence to apply for the positions that I really wanted to.
I think the most important things I learned from Diane were how to treat people, how to mentor people, how to try to help other people. It's not about me getting forward because I'm really smart and bright, because I'm not. It's about how you work with other people to bring out the best in them, and that raises everybody up. I was working for Diane during the Nagano Olympics, and it was a great experience. I got to go work with her on some really tough, hard problems from a computer science perspective, from a networking perspective, and I got to see her work with groups of people, very diverse people, in an area back in the late 90s that was a new and emerging area that now is everybody does, but it was a conglomeration or a mixing together of instant messaging, email systems, and phone mail systems. She was so far ahead of where everybody else was at the time that when we went to pitch it to teams that were doing this work, they were like, well, that's really interesting, but that's 10 years out. Well, now I'm sitting 10, 12 years out, and all the things she was talking about doing back in the late 90s, people are now doing with these systems today. I've worked with a lot of really smart people, and there's smart people who you walk away with and you feel you disagree with and you feel like you've taken a beating. With Diane, you could disagree with Diane and would still do it the right way, which was usually Diane's way, but she listened to what you were doing and she made you feel good about sharing your opinion.
Diane vividly remembers walking into a room of 500 top technical leaders at IBM and being the only one in a skirt. How things have changed. Today she teaches young men and women the power of cooperating teams, building on her experiences at IBM. Over the years, she has learned to better balance her work and personal life. Along the way, she's even taken her daughter to all 7 continents.
Introducing Dr. Pozefsky is IBM fellow Fran Allen, an outstanding contributor to programming languages, a pioneer in compiler or optimization, and a 1997 inductee to the WITI Hall of Fame.
I was delighted to hear that Diane had been selected. My immediate reaction was, it took them a long time. And she is, I say that because I view Diane as a very great scientist in our field. I mean, we often look at the other characteristics of how we, Diane or other people, deal with people, but I can vouch for the fact that Diane is a very great scientist, and for some of the reasons that were just spoken about on the film. And I want to, instead of, since you've already heard some of the things she has done, and oh, by the way, I first met her when I went down from IBM Research to where I was working, and to talk to her about the networking work, which I knew nothing about. And I came away knowing a lot more than when I went visited. And it was a stunning, one of the reasons for that is Diane is very articulate and very precise and very careful with what she says. And indeed, as the person on the film said, she is right. and he is a person who is a very good judge of whether it's true or false. So, in fact, I'm not going to say anything much about Diane's scientific work. Yeah, it is just, she's a giant in the fields that she has gone into. But I think that one of the points that characterizes Diane is impeccable integrity. In the field, I have become increasingly concerned about kind of, is this right or not, or trying to judge what people's work, and is it original, is it just who really did the work. Diane, you can trust that that with her integrity, if she says it's somebody's work, it is somebody's work. If she says it works, it will work, or can work. Or if she is almost never wrong, and it's really a pleasure to work with somebody who works very well with others. She's a team player, and she knows. Recognizes when something is flawed and goes and develops solutions to the flaws, and is never satisfied until it's right. So it's in my real pleasure to have a colleague in the past at IBM, and a friend for many years, and a continuing friend, of course, as both a great scientist and with the impeccable integrity that Diane has. Thank you.
You guys are lucky. I didn't get the memo. I don't have anything prepared. But I do want to thank all of my families. And I've been very fortunate over the years to have lots of families. I have my IBM family that nurtured me for 25 years. I have friends from IBM who are here today. I have my UNC family. That's where I got my degree, and they welcomed me back when I wanted to teach. And I have some students here from there who have been inspirations to me. All of my students are inspirations to me. They keep me going, they keep me learning, and I just love them. And then, of course, my own family. I have my family, my husband's family, my daughter is here. We have a large family, and they're all here, and they're all very, very special to me. My parents have both passed away. My mother died about a year ago from now. And when somebody asked me this evening what from my family made me who I am, it sort of struck me that it is so important how we were raised and what was important to our families. And for my family, being a good person and being an education were so important. And I know they're looking down and enjoying it. And I want my husband to know they said I'm usually right. Thank you.
Diane, I have to say that I actually ran into one of your students from Chapel Hill that I've worked with in the past, Aaron Fulkerson, who was here just a little while ago cheering you on. Before we introduce our next honoree, let me take a moment to really mention what tonight's 16th Annual Hall of Fame Awards dinner is for. It's a fundraising event for the Women in Technology International Foundation, which is a nonprofit corporation. The WITI Foundation donates all after-tax profits to programs that encourage young women to choose careers in science and technology. So you see, WITI is not only about celebrating innovations and innovators, but it's also actively committed to paving the way for future leaders. So we really encourage you to support organizations like WITI because it's essential to our global future. Again, you help make this possible, so thank you. Our next inductee is Dr. Sophy Vanderbrook, who has been Xerox's Chief Technology Officer and the President of the Xerox Innovation Group since January of 2006. She is a Fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, a Fulbright Fellow, and a Fellow of the Belgian American Educational Foundation, and received awards from Xerox, IBM, HP, Monsanto, the Belgian National Science Foundation, Semiconductor Research Corporation, IEEE, and Cornell University. What other names can I mention? And now the WITI Hall of Fame. So let's see more about Dr. Vanderbrook.
I will never forget the day that Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. I was 7 years old, it was 4 a.m. I lived in Belgium with my dad, who was an engineer, and my mom is an artist, and we all watched this amazing historical moment in time. At that point, I got this big dream. I wanted to see my footsteps in moon dust.
She was dreaming of becoming an astronaut, fell in love with engineering, and today Dr. Sophy Vandebrook is Xerox's Chief Technology Officer. In 2007, she stood at the White House and watched the President of the United States present Xerox with one of the nation's highest honors, the National Medal of Technology.
I am proud to be part of Xerox and proud to be able to follow people who have been at Xerox for the last 5 or 6 decades, making such an amazing impact on the world. I arrived at Cornell University with 2 suitcases and a fellowship. I went on to study and get my PhD in microelectronics. Then I briefly worked at IBM Research, and 2 decades ago I joined Xerox Research. My 20 years at Xerox have been amazing. I get the privilege to work with smart and passionate people around the globe.
She has a heart to really tackle an initiative, and she's focused on it, and she's not one to just sit back and give and delegate. And me personally, it allowed me to be free to be who I am because I saw the passion that she had.
Unfortunately, there is a declining interest in science and technology, and especially for girls and minorities who are less interested to enter these important fields. So one of my passions is to really understand how can we truly attract more people, more teenagers, more girls, more minorities into science and technology, and allow them to have these amazing dreams as I had when I was growing up. One program that does this very well is FIRST Robotics. In that program, students first build a robot in 3 months, and then they go and compete. I've been a judge of the program many times, and when I talk to the students, especially the girls, after successfully completing a tournament, you can see their confidence. You can see that they really know now that they can do this. They can solve big problems.
One of the ways that Sophie has shown her passion for women in technology is through her reaching out to not only the women within the Xerox Innovation Group and within Xerox through the caucus groups, but also to the local universities, local as well as actually national other universities that she's very involved with.
Between my husband and I, we have 6 children, all now young adults, and all interested in careers in science, technology, or engineering. In fact, my oldest daughter just graduated with her master's in environmental engineering from Cornell. Being elected to the Women in Technology Hall of Fame is a real privilege. I thank my husband, my children, as well as my amazing Xerox colleagues and all of the open innovation partners that I work with each and every day in creating the future today. Thank you.
I hear a fan club. Introducing Dr. Vanderbroek is Xerox colleague and Park research scientist Ji Fong. Dr. Fong's work encompasses natural language processing and social media analytics. She is especially interested in computational approaches that combine deep linguistic analyses and statistical techniques. Come on up.
It's my great honor to have the opportunity to introduce Dr. Sophy Vanderbrook. I work at Palo Alto Research Center, which is just one of the research centers that Sophy oversees. And in addition to Park, Sophy also oversees other Xerox research centers in Europe, Asia, and US, as well as Canada. So Sophy is also a member of the board of directors of Analogic Corporation, of Nipro Corporation, and she is also a member of the U.S. National Academy's Committee on Science, Technology, and Law. She is a trustee of Worcester Polytechnic Institute and also serves on the advisory council of the Deans of Engineering at Cornell University and at MIT. So that's kind of her resume achievements. Now I'd like to share with you a little bit of my personal interaction, my personal experience with Sophy. So in my personal interaction with Sophy, she really strikes me as a scarily smart person. I'll share with you a little story why I think so. So I gave Sophy a presentation in February 2010 about a project I just started to work on. And in that presentation, I mentioned a product name called Color Cube, not for very important reasons. And after about 1.5 years later, I gave her another presentation, which is sort of remotely related to that previous presentation. In the middle of the presentation, all of a sudden, Sophy asked me, "Are the results you just presented the results about Color Cube?" I was like, huh? It took me really a few seconds to to quickly search what is that Color Cube, and fortunately I found it. I got immediately kind of scared, but simultaneously touched. So I was scared because I feel, oh my God, I should be very careful about what I say to Sophy every time. But I was also very touched because I can't imagine my presentation 1.5 years ago being how important, but your remembering of such a small detail made me feel like my research, my work is very important. Thank you. In her leisure time, Sophy and her husband especially enjoy spending time with their 6 kind of young adults. So I feel that's also a great achievement. It's with my great pleasure that we welcome Dr. Sophy Vandebrook to the WITI Hall of Fame.
Wow, it's heavy. Good. And I wrote this on my BlackBerry on the way in because we did get the message this morning. But of course, many thanks go to the Women in Technology International for honoring me in the Hall of Fame. This is just amazing. And also congratulations to the other women here tonight. You guys are great. Most of all, I want to thank my global research team and all of my many Xerox colleagues, as well as our open innovation partners and our clients around the globe, with whom I really always have the privilege to envision the future today and then making that real. I mean, it's just an amazing amazing thing to do on a daily basis. And of course, after 2 decades at Xerox, many of them have become my friends. They become like your extended family. And so I'm delighted that tonight we have many of the people and the researchers, as well as Steve Hoover, the CEO of the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center with us, and a great friend, Julie Hogan, she's taking a picture, who leads all Xerox sales in the area here. So thank you guys for being here and at Park. You guys do such amazing work. Indeed, I'm lucky that I've worked at Xerox in a company that truly values science and technology to be at the core of differentiating our products and services. So that's really a privilege. In addition, I'm lucky to work at a company like Xerox where I don't have to be a trailblazer. I mean, we embrace diversity. You saw Ursula Burns, our CEO, in the video. At Xerox, we can truly be ourselves. So that is really, I always mentor new people, go work for a company where you can truly be yourself. But let me thank a few more people. First of all, my parents for always believing in me and early on encouraging me to study engineering. In fact, in Belgium, only 3% of the engineering students were women, so meaning 15 out of 500 students when I started. And so, of course, my parents were really happy that I started engineering, my dad being an engineer, but afterward, my dad said, even if, whatever, his hope was I would graduate, even if I don't graduate, I would marry an engineer, which was good. And in fact, I did. I ended up not only one, but I married 2 engineers, of course, not at the same time. And then this brings me to the next person, Jesus, my husband and best friend, and unfortunately couldn't be here because he's taking care of one of our sons. Anyway, I also want to thank Nena, my daughter, who just graduated from Cornell with a master's in engineering. Nena, stand up. You're amazing, and I'm very happy you're here. She bought a one-way ticket to San Francisco a month ago and works in San Francisco now, for those of you in the area. Very happy. And of course, I also want to thank my boys, and especially mine too. 3 of them came with a new husband. Arno and Jonas for being okay with, for many years, having a single mom who was always very busy. And when I mentioned to these boys that I was going to be inducted in the Women in Technology Hall of Fame, this is how they reacted. Well, of course, and they rolled their eyes. That's because there's so few women in technology. So luckily, our kids will always keep us grounded, which during significant occasions like this is, of course, very important. Thank you all.
Oh, from the mouths of babes. Our next inductee is Lynda Weinman, a self-taught computer expert, author, educator, and entrepreneur. She's co-founder and executive chair of lynda.com. That's Lynda.com. She is also one of the pioneering companies in online education. Ms. Weinman was a faculty member of the Art Center College of Design and wrote the very first industry book on web design. Her current company, lynda.com, evolved from its original purpose as a free resource for her students to the site for her books on web design, to the registration hub for physical classrooms and conferences, to its current incarnation as a highly successful online virtual knowledge library. Let's take a closer look.
Anything can really be broken down into small steps and is learnable. I was 28 when I first tried a computer. I cracked open the manual and I was mortified by how difficult it was to understand, but I just kept trying things, and when I had little successes with it, I was so proud of myself, and then I kind of got a little addicted to it. I remember going to the first Macworld and seeing the first animation program and wanting to learn it and making friends with the people who developed it. And I was working in the effects industry, and everybody around me was like, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? And so just because I was enthusiastic, I started sharing it, and somebody offered to pay me to teach them, and it really shocked me that I could earn money doing what my hobby was. People started writing about what I was doing, and then I got invited to write a magazine article, and I was really afraid because I had never really thought of myself as a writer. And I wrote my first article, and then another magazine saw it and asked me to write another one, and it launched this writing career and teaching career that I never thought I would want to pursue. I was offered a teaching job at Art Center College of Design, where I ended up teaching for about 6 years. And while I was there, the web came out. And I thought, oh wow, my art students are going to need to learn how to do this. This is going to be a fantastic way to share their portfolios. And I went to the bookstore to look for a book on the topic and realized that one hadn't been written. And in the bookstore I decided, well, I should write this. I've written magazine articles before. I know how to teach. I know how to write curriculum. And so maybe I'm the right person to write this book. And I ended up writing it. It became a national and an international bestseller. And it really launched this incredibly bigger career than just being a classroom teacher. The website was really a sandbox for me to teach myself web design. We decided to open that door and test putting the movies online and charging a subscription rate. And it was so joyful to share what I knew and see other people be able to do things that they didn't think they could do. And I think for a lot of people, they feel like, oh, I don't know this, and so I can't advance in my job, or I can't choose a certain kind of career. And just knowing that there's a resource where you can come and at any skill level jump in and learn something is really reassuring and confidence building. Running our business is so much fun, and just working with all the amazing people that we work with and on the kinds of projects that we work on. I think my initial thrill of learning the computer is just amplified, times whatever, because of how many different products we cover, and our entire company where we have the film component. We're kind of a film studio, we're a publishing company. That ties into my background as a book writer and how liberating it was for me to earn royalties, and so we came up with a royalty model for all of our teachers. And I love running lynda.com with everybody, and I love bringing in talent, and I love working with all the other people who fill in the holes that I don't fill, and learning from everybody and collaborating and working on something that has never been done before. It's just so challenging and so fun.
And here to say a few words about Ms. Weinman is WITI Hall of Fame manager Peggy Kilburn.
I met Lynda Weinman when we were both young cubs back at the dawn of the microcomputer age. I was the founding conference director for Macworld Expo, and many friends told me I should recruit Lynda Weinman to speak on web graphics. I'm so glad I did. She was a gift, one of the best speakers ever, and one of the most truly marvelous people I've ever known. Lynda is not only a pioneering woman in technology and the co-creator of a technology-based empire, she's a mega-talented woman who cares, who inspires. She's a woman of integrity who makes a positive difference in the world. She shares her own successes and helps others, especially women, who are striving and struggling to succeed. We are delighted to welcome Lynda Weinman to the WITI Hall of Fame.
Peggy, thank you so much. Really touched to have you deliver the introduction to me, and those were good days. I'm very honored to be inducted today, and grateful to Carolyn, who I got to sit and have dinner with tonight, for creating this wonderful organization. And I'm reminded that it's just such a short time. When I think back to my mother, both my mothers, my stepmother and my mother, neither of whom thought that they could ever have a career at all. They didn't even dream to suggest to me that I have a career. I mean, I really feel like I've witnessed the dawn of feminism and the dawn of women being able to achieve their dreams and wish for something bigger for themselves. And with lynda.com, it's just so much bigger than me. The premise of just helping others is so huge, and it's such an honor and privilege to get to do that. I'm very grateful to everybody who I work with, especially to my husband who couldn't be here today, Bruce. And it's never too late to learn something new, so it's great to be part of reforming education and making education more democratic to more people. So thank you all so much. This is a great honor.
Our final inductee to WITI's 2011 Hall of Fame is Ms. Evelyn Berezin. Evelyn Barisan invented what we know as the first office computer in 1953 while working for the Underwood Company. Underwood was sold subsequently to Olivetti, who never marketed Evelyn's invention. Evelyn then went on to work for Teleregister, where she developed several online real-time systems, including the first online reservation system in the world for United Airlines. In 1968, Evelyn arrived at the idea of developing a word processor that would enable secretaries to store and edit texts in less tedious ways than could be accomplished with typewriters. In 1969, she founded the first word processor company, Redactron Corporation, using market-available microprocessing chips to bring her idea for word processors to fruition. Ms. Berezin is a recipient of the Long Island Distinguished Leadership Award and the NYU Alumni Association's Meritorious Service Award. She has been featured in Businessweek's list of top 100 businesswomen in the United States. Currently, Ms. Berezin works as a management consultant for Brookhaven Science Associates, which manages and operates the Brookhaven National Laboratory. Ms. Berezin had hoped to join us in person tonight, but unhappily, at 86 years of age, being sidelined with a knee injury does not make for easy cross-country travel. Yeah. Her colleagues at Stony Brook University, however, knowing of Ms. Berezin's disappointment at not being able to accept her award in person, have lovingly and masterfully crafted a video that paints a powerful scene of her accomplishments.
I'm Evelyn Berezin, and when I was a small child, I was very interested in physics. The reason for that was that my brother had these great magazines called Astounding Science Fiction, which I read as a young girl, and I just fell in love with it. And that's what started it. But this was the Depression, and I had very little reason to believe that it was possible to get anywhere in physics. Certainly as a woman, it was hard to get a job at all, hard for a man to get a job in the Depression. And so as I went to school, I really had given that up. But then the Second World War happened. That war was a blessing for many people and a horror for most. But for women, it was really a great opportunity. And it permitted me to go to college and to change my degree and to get degrees in physics and later graduate degrees in physics. However, I never really used it because one day I found myself in a computer company in October of 1951 designing computers when not only had I never done that before, but most of the people in the world didn't even know they existed. The first computer had been delivered in 1949, and this was just 2 years after that. And so we taught ourselves how to build computers, and I was hired as the head of the logic design department, which was really the group that designed the computers, whereas all the engineers built them. I did that for quite a few years and found that I had started as head of that department, and I went to a number of different companies, but always in that same job, and I realized that there were no other jobs that I could get, and that reaching to, let's say, a vice president's role in the small companies in which I worked was just simply not in the cards for me. And I started a company in the late 60s. The field that we chose after a lot of work and investigations was word processing. You may not know that when I started a company in the late 60s, word processing really didn't exist in the United States. There was 6% of the populations were secretaries and typists, and that's what they did. They typed and retyped. And so it seemed that a machine, which was just beginning to be possible to build, to do automatic word processing would be a useful device. I had no experience in business. Nobody in my family had any experience in business. And I hadn't a clue as to what I was getting into. We actually went public a couple of years after we started the company and developed a manufacturing capability for these word processors that we sold in competition with IBM, I may say, and ended up with about 500 people in that company. The company was sold in 1975. And we sold it to Burroughs, which was a very big computer company based in Detroit. I worked for them for a while and then got involved in venture capital. And there I have to stop and say that's sort of the second big technical revolution, because that was just the beginning at that point. In biology, DNA had been determined sometime before, and there was a vast change in the way biological research was done and in what could be accomplished. And I was part of a little venture capital fund and also some other people who tried to help these companies. I was on the board of a number of them over the many years. I think I've been on about 30 small, all technology-based, early phase companies. The third revolution, which was the women's revolution. And I was already grown up when that happened. And I found, as I talked to women who were in it, how difficult it was to get work at all, even though they were educated and had done a lot of interesting stuff and so on. At that point, somebody came to me, a woman named B. Fitzpatrick, who had really had the idea of trying to help women to start their own companies. That I thought was a great idea because it answered a lot of the problems that women were having. We ended up getting money together and at first training women who had a lot of experience and education and so on, but more and more teaching women who were poor and had very little education, and many of them on welfare. And we taught them to start, how to price and how to cost and how to do all the things that were necessary to get their own company going. We trained thousands of women, and our success ratio was, if I remember correctly, about 60%, which was really quite remarkable. And so the company with that group was called the American Women's Economic Development Corporation. It was run, and I was on the board of it for about 25 years, at the end of which was only some years ago, we decided that we had really won the game and it wasn't really needed anymore because there were more women starting companies in the United States than men. The most astonishing thing about this whole story is that I grew up in a Bronx tenement where nobody had any money at all. I mean, absolutely none. And that it was possible, and really because the whole country was changing with the beginning of the war and through the periods beyond it, to where opportunity was opening up all over the place. And I'm astonished that at that point I got to starting my own company, to getting on boards of big companies, to work with all kinds of technical companies that all in new technologies. I mean, it was a most fascinating time, and when I grew up, none of this would have been thought possible, and it was certainly not possible for a woman. I must say that running a company is about the most fascinating thing I have ever done, and teaching other people about it sort of helped to keep that idea going.
And accepting the award for Evelyn Berezin is WITI founder and chairwoman Carolyn Layton.
I almost tripped. First time this conference. Usually I trip regularly, but it is so inspiring to most of us here. Hello, Fran. To hear the stories of the accomplishments of the women, not just tonight, but the years of the Hall of Fame Awards, because so many of these women are really and were anonymous outside of their immediate organizations. And one of WITI's goals has been to capture your legacies, those of you who are winners, because 100 years from now, we want everyone to remember what you've done, how you've contributed, and most of all, to inspire all those young girls who are future Hall of Fame winners. So it is really a pleasure to watch this video of Evelyn, who was one of the early pioneers, and to be able to accept the award on her behalf. And I wish she were here with us tonight, but she is here in spirit. So thank you very much.
And I would love to have our inductees make their way to the stage, because I'm sure we're not the only ones who want some photo opportunities with them. But ladies and gentlemen, though, besides that, this concludes our program for the evening. It really has been an extraordinary night, hasn't it? I think so. And of course, we do hope to see all of you back here again next year for the 17th Annual Hall of Fame Awards here at this very same Doubletree Hotel in San Jose, and that will be September 30th through October 2nd of 2012. And as we continue to make history, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us as well, and have a good night.